think the addition of James Harden, although some people might see it as, adding a top 10 player to the team, taking away from Joel Embiid, maybe even lessening his MVP case. But honestly, I just don't see it. Hello and welcome to the Friday, March 11th edition of the TV on Basketball podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're having a fantastic day and thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. Before we start, I do have to plug my other platforms. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other great content. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That would be highly, highly appreciated. And for my podcast listeners, remember to subscribe and leave a review if you're on Apple. And for my Spotify, Anchor, and Podbean listeners, just continue to show your support in any way possible. That would be highly, highly appreciated. In today's episode, we're going to be focusing a lot around this crazy MVP race that's happening this season. I mean, there's like this three-man race, and honestly, I haven't been this hyped for an MVP race probably since the Westbrook-Harden one back in, 2017. So we're going to focus a lot on that. We're going to be talking about whether the Timberwolves are for real or not, because right now they're actually playing really well. So we're going to be talking a lot about them. And of course, we're going to be ending off this episode with other news and notes. Not as many topics this week, but we are focusing heavily, and I mean heavily, on the MVP race. But yeah, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for coming back, watching this episode, maybe even listening to it if you're on the podcast channels. I really do appreciate all of you. It's going to be a fantastic episode. I'm excited to talk some more NBA basketball, especially because we are basically 1 month away from the playoffs. So the content is going to rise. The end of season awards are going to come very soon. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be an awesome, playoffs. Everything about it is going to be just so great. And coming into the end of the season, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about all of it. So, yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna stop myself from rambling even too long. Let's get into this episode. Let's get right into it, and we're gonna be talking about the MVP race in depth in this episode. And really, what I really want to look at the MVP race is that the top three has been solidified for a while now, with the rotating spots of 4 and 5, which I'll get into a bit later. But I really want to go into each of these guys' MVP case. And this main three, I mean, what's funny is that earlier on in the season, we were like, it has to be either KD or Steph. That was like the two-man race at the beginning of the year. And now, at this point in the season, we got a three-man race where two of the guys were actually top MVP candidates last year. And of course, we got one guy who has been constantly in those discussions over the last 4 or 5 years. And let's see the case for all of them. Because, like I said, the number 4 and 5 spots, they're always rotating. There's always someone who's going to have that huge stretch of games. And they're the ones who are going to take over those 4 and 5 spots. But in my opinion, no matter who are in those 4 and 5 spots, they're not going to do enough in this final month of the season where there's 15 games remaining. They're not going to do anything that's going to reach these three guys. And let's get into them. The first guy I want to talk about here, and then again, I might give my rankings at the end of this, but I'm going to just give them their case first. The first one I want to talk about is Giannis. Giannis Antetokounmpo is, I feel like we say this every year with Giannis. He's just having another ridiculous season. If you look at the last 4 years, I know he won, he won the MVP in 2019, and he won back-to-back, winning one in 2020. And those were fantastic years. But even in this year, he is having a career high in points. 29, almost 30 points a game. He's averaging 6 assists, 11 rebounds still. He's decent at the free throw line. I think he's 70-something%, 72%. And, of course, he is just dominating on the inside with still having that huge defensive impact. The Bucks right now, second in the East. The defensive impact hasn't really been there, but they still have one of the best offensive teams in the league, led by Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo. And for me, Giannis's case here is that he's one of the best teams in the East, and you could just tell when he's on the court that it's his game. And I think you could say it for the rest of these three, but we kind of just got numb to him just dominating. which I don't want to like take anything away from Giannis, just because like, it just kind of feels like LeBron, especially in the early 2010s, mid 2010s, where you just like are just accustomed to dominance. You're like, you know what, a 30, 10, and 5 game, not that impressive. Maybe it's just like, is this just like a regular day at the office? Like, we have to really think about this. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous what Giannis is putting up. There was a lot of news around Charles Oakley saying he would not dominate in the game in the 90s when he was around and he's like roughing him up. Nah, this guy is just an athletic freak. We call him the Greek freak for a reason. And he is like when he's out there on the court, you just know like he demands so much attention, and he just has this thing about him where no matter what you have to do, like no matter like who is like out there for the Bucks, you have to focus him on number one, and the other guys you would honestly at this point you would just let them go ahead and like win it for them, and you could see that in the case where a couple weeks ago where it was the Bucks taking on the Suns, and they took away Giannis in the second half. I think he only had 2 points, but then he relied on the other guys and they were able to step up. Giannis has garnered that attention, and he if some people want to say that he is the best player in the league, I would not argue, because of his impact on both sides of the court, and the fact that he's been like producing at such a high level, for the last 4 years. I mean, he could possibly win the scoring title this year, which he hasn't done yet in his career. He is just an amazing player, and I don't again, just like him dominating these last 4 years. I don't want to take anything away from how special his production has been, because we're used to it. We can't fall into that trap the same way we've been falling into that trap for LeBron. Same thing we did for all these other guys. It's amazing. It's amazing nonetheless. And at this point, he has honestly top 15 all-time projection. He might win honestly one or two MVPs in his career, maybe another title, and who knows? He might even rack up a few Defensive Player of the Years. But with the way he's with the Bucks, they have a great team around him. They're set. Their team is set, and honestly, no matter where they place in the East, whether it's number 2, whether it's number 3, number 4, because it's probably gonna fluctuate throughout the next month, they're still gonna be one of the biggest threats, and the biggest reason is this guy, the Greek freak, the guy who scored 50 points in a closeout game in the NBA Finals. But I just do not think that I'm not gonna say he has a case. He definitely has a case to win MVP, and the reason why I just don't think that he might not be number 1 is because of award fatigue. And the reason for award fatigue is that Giannis has just been dominating. He's always part of of course he's the part of the top echelon of guys, but discussions for MVP. He won NBA Finals MVP. The people who vote for it are just gonna have fatigue about voting for Giannis every single time, even though he might deserve it. And maybe he does deserve it. Again, there's a case to be made for all 3 of these guys. But it's just award fatigue. It really just is. I mean, LeBron has suffered from it. There's been times where Shaq has in the past. But Giannis is that guy. He has to be in the top 3, in my opinion, for this. And whether you can he is number 1, maybe he is, but I just don't think that he'll win this year, because honestly, it's just a stacked top 3 this year, and you can really go to either one of these 3. Maybe Giannis is not there, but I'm going to do my rankings a bit later. Next person I want to talk about, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid this year, I mean, last year he was, I think, number 2 in MVP voting as well. But this year, he somehow has, even played better than last year, which is absolutely crazy, because last year he averaged 28, 10, 3 assists. But this year he somehow got better, tied with Giannis for the scoring title. Even the same, even more rebounds, even more assists, and a lot of that really I think helps. What really helped him out for this one is that there was no Ben Simmons early on in the season, and that's a big part of why Embiid's case has been so good. He's having more production, has very good impact on both sides of the ball. His team is number 3, and honestly, a lot of that has to do with him just being able to carry that team with Tobias Harris. I mean, they had Steph Curry on, but he was able just to carry them, and they're just. And the thing is, with the 76ers is that they're not exceptional on either side. They're not they're in the top half of both offense and defense, but they're just not like, one of those guys like I talked about the Bucks earlier. They're not a top 3 offense. Or if I talk about the Suns who have like top 5 on both sides, no. But a lot of this has to do with Joel Embiid just dominating earlier on in the season and doing enough to keep the 76ers afloat. Now bringing James Harden, and it's making his life a whole lot easier. And I think the addition of James Harden, although some people might see it as, adding a top 10 player to the team, taking away from Joel Embiid, maybe even lessening his MVP case. But honestly, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Him having James Harden beside him just gives him like more room to operate, and just like gives him like more time, just gives him like a better chance to dominate. Sure, it was bad yesterday. I mean, he was the only one that really showed up. 27 points. He went to the free throw line freaking 19 times, 15 times in the first half. But apart from last game, that connection between him and James Harden has been absolutely fantastic, and it's just making his life just a whole lot easier, being able to just get more space in the paint and dominate the way he has, because he's a beast in the inside. Maybe his mid-range shot hasn't been like as effective as it was last year. I know he just has like a lower field goal percentage this year in general, but he's still dominant there. Still a very good 3-point shooter as well. Maybe it's still a bit lower than last year, but he just has that impact. And the way, I mean, just looking at like just some of his like notable games this year, he has I think like quite a number of 40-point games this year. He has a 50-pointer, and he just like feels like he just dominates in like whoever's on the court standing across from him, no matter what. And he still has that defensive impact, and he's turning 28 in a couple days. What's like helping him a lot here too is that out of these like 60 games or something that's been played, he's played 50 something, and I think that barring any injuries, I think he can still like play maybe 63, 64 games. Maybe that's enough to win MVP. Who knows? But he just has like that impact. He has like that dominance, like in the league today. He 100% deserves to be in the conversation. Honestly, top 2, top 3, wherever you want to put him, Joel Embiid has to be there. And it's funny because like him and the guy I'm going to talk about next, they were neck and neck in MVP both these years. But I really do think that if any year's a year that Joel Embiid's going to win it, it's probably going to be this year. And I talk about Giannis, about award fatigue. Joel doesn't have that. And I'm going to talk about the next guy. I mean, you obviously know who's going to be. But he hasn't won one. And I think him not having one in previous years, him not winning like a finals MVP, just because he hasn't been there. This is his best chance because he hasn't won it. He has like the crazy stats to back up his play, and the team success is there. But him not having the MVP helps him here, because they're like, you know what? This guy hasn't won it yet. His stats are extremely, extremely comparable to the other guys he's up against. But maybe we can give him a chance this year. That's really something I think that's going to tilt a bit in his favor. And it's not like saying like, oh, because like he's bad in this area, maybe we're just gonna like give him like throw him a bone here. No, he's just as dominant, and the team that he has, like that he's playing with, is like playing at a very high level, having home court advantage in the East. I think that Joel Embiid has a very, very good case to win MVP. But the last guy here, and I want to leave him to last because he is the one guy in the West right now, and his case, like you could 100% make the case for it, because especially now, him and Joel Embiid have the same amount of wins, which is absolutely crazy. But my third and final main 3 MVP candidate has to be Nikola Jokic. It just 100% have to be Nikola Jokic. And what the thing about Nikola Jokic's team, the Denver Nuggets, is that compared to Giannis, where Giannis is number 2 in the East, Joel Embiid, who's number 3 in the East, the Nuggets are 6. The Nuggets are 6, and I know that sounds bad just listening to it here on the podcast. But what's crazy is that 6th place in the West, like it's the same amount of wins as the Bulls, the 76ers, and the Celtics. There's actually, just look at the standings right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams have 40 wins. 5 teams have 40 wins, and that includes the Denver Nuggets, who are sitting 6th in the West, going up against the 76ers with Embiid. They have 40 wins in the East, and the Nuggets are only 2 games behind the Milwaukee Bucks in terms of wins as well. But talking to Nikola Jokic, losing Jamal Murray last year, losing Michael Porter after 10 games this year, people thought the Denver Nuggets, they're not going to be competitive. They're not title contenders as long as those two guys are out. But the reason why they're still in the race, they have this, I think they're half a game behind the Dallas Mavericks. They're only 2 games behind Utah for 4th. It's because of this man. It's because of Nikola Jokic. And last year, for me, I won't say unanimous MVP, but he was the clear runaway MVP winner. And he was putting up ridiculous stats, as always, as Jokic does. But the thing about him this year is that somehow, some way, he's playing better. He's playing better, and I don't know, like, how he just continues to play so well. I guess there's more opportunity. But even though he has, like, a less points per game, near the same amount of assists, same amount of rebounds, but there are more, per se, just dominant Jokic performances. And the thing about Jokic is that he is such a hard guard in the league because, one, just like Embiid, just like Giannis, he can dominate in the paint. He could dominate, like, whoever is his offensive matchup. But with Jokic, when you double team him, when you put extra pressure on him, he is one of the best passers in the league. And it doesn't matter if you send a double team, triple team, he just knows how to find the open guy. And it's really a pick your poison with Jokic. That's why he's averaging 6 assists in his career, 8 assists this year. He just knows, like, and his teammates know around him, when he has the ball, just move around, get into the open spots, because he will find you. And he's like, and him like being able to do that, I think adds a whole other element to the center position, just his game in general. And I think that honestly makes him at this point in the league the most like complete offensive player that we have. Someone who's like this good, passing the ball, shooting the ball, scoring. Like as an all-around offensive player, he has to be up there, and he again playing at an MVP level. And just like last year, I mean, he has missed a few games. I know last year he was the Iron Man in the league, played the full, 72 games. He's going to play 70-plus games again this year. And I think that's really going to help his case because he just knows how to stay in the court. Availability is the best kind of ability. But Jokic this year, man, I mean, he, like, just looking at just some of his, like, crazy performances, like, the other, like, week, he had a 46-point game against the New Orleans Pelicans, which went to overtime. But he scored 30 points in the overtime and fourth quarter periods. Him able to just 60 for 22 from field goal, 3 out of 5 from 3. Him having 4 blocks, 3 steals. This guy is even like solid on the defensive end. Now he doesn't have the same impact as a Joel Embiid or as a Giannis Antetokounmpo, but Jokic has a good defensive impact. He is not a liability. He is not a liability on the defensive end. He's just on the next, like, he's just on a completely, like, another level right now, which is crazy because I thought maybe last year was, like, kind of peak Jokic. You can honestly say the fact that he's having another type of, like, peak sort of year this year of his career, which is absolutely crazy. And again, no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter Jr., that is helping his case right now because the team that he has around him, like, without him, honestly, would be the worst team in the league, in my opinion. Take away Jokic, you have a team led by Bones Highland, Will Barton. Again, no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter Jr. Jeff Green, Aaron Gordon. No. Jokic makes that team work. Without him, they just cannot. Honestly, they'll be the worst team in the league, and I think that's literally my big argument for him. Giannis, he's got the team success out of these top 3. Embiid, just as dominant. He doesn't have an MVP yet. That could be his, like, honestly, his biggest case. But Jokic doing it without his 2 best players, his 2 best supporting castmates, and still being able to hold the Nuggets into the 6th seed, someone who can possibly go even higher, is honestly just a testament to how great he is. And honestly, he should be there as a top 3 MVP candidate. But as of right now, how do I rank these guys in top 3? Number 3, I got Giannis, just because. Again, forward fatigue is not gonna be a big thing for him, but he's still being dominant. The Bucks are there, It's more of an underwhelming season for the Bucks more than I'm not gonna say even underwhelming because they're number 2 in the East, but I don't know, just something about like it just feels like ordinary, which is weird. But Giannis, like his like season, like him having a dominant season, we're used to it. But he has the MVP on like 2 MVPs under his belt. That's why I have him number 3. Number 2, it's really tough because Embiid and Jokic, both dominant centers, 2 of the best centers in the league. Who's going to be number 1? Who's going to be number 2 in MVP? You can really flip back and forth, really, because both these guys are just going to have awesome night over awesome night. And it's weird for me because I literally like flip-flop every like week. But at number 2 at the moment I have, I think maybe it has to do with the 76ers loss yesterday, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid for me is number 2. Still great impact on both ends. Again, he's been relatively healthy, so I think that's going to help his case as well for trying to win MVP. But I just think that Jokic just has a bigger impact. And like I said, that's why I have Jokic number 1. Him having no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter Jr., 2 guys that can probably score 20 points per game. Removing that from your team, removing 40 points, and making sure everyone still eats, making sure he gets his shots off, him take over games. He's doing it. He's doing it at an extremely high level, and I just can't believe it. Honestly, he looks like he's just playing better than last year. What would help him for sure is maybe if it looks more aesthetically pleasing, him being around the 4th, maybe around the 4th seed. That would be ideal for him. But even still, like him being able to do more with less, and him being probably the most like complete offensive player in the league, for me takes him over Embiid. For MVP, honestly, it's really close. It's really close. Even if you add Giannis in the mix, it's really, really close. That's why no matter who you're gonna have in top 4, top 5 MVP, 4 and 5 is not gonna catch up to any of these guys. No chance. Speaking of number 4 and 5, so before we move on to 4 and 5, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic, that is my ranking. Now we talk about the 4 and 5 spots, and honestly, I'm not gonna say like who are my 4 and 5. I just want to acknowledge those who have been in the conversation for 4 and 5, and just how much it's rotating. CB3, before he got injured, honestly had a case for 4 or 5. Another great year. Him being was healthy for a good chunk of it. The Suns being by far the best team in the league. I think they're 8.5 games over everyone else in the league, which is pretty insane. But he had a case. John Morant, the fact that the Grizzlies are number 2 right now, and the way that he is dominating the league right now, taking that next step, he deserves to be 100% in the MVP race. But still, Ja for MVP. You know how it goes. Steph Curry, like I mentioned earlier, he was in the mix. The Warriors kind of falling off a bit, but Draymond Green should be back next year. Maybe he can make a late push. I don't think he'll get into the top 3 though. KD before his injury, even right now he's been playing absolutely phenomenal. But the thing is, the Brooklyn Nets are 8th, but definitely early on in the season he had that case. Luka right now, the Mavs are number 5 ahead of the Denver Nuggets. He is back to his MVP self after a slow start. He deserves, honestly, he's putting up MVP level numbers as well. He just has not as much love there for sure. Next one, Jason Tatum. Mostly because of the Boston Celtics run right now. They have 40 wins themselves. Only 1 game behind the Philadelphia 76ers. But Tatum having a fantastic year, especially post All-Star break, that is definitely giving him some more love. 26 points a game, 4 rebounds, 8 assists. Phenomenal player. Even someone who was there earlier on in the season but has kind of fell out of the talks as well, Demar Derozan. Demar Derozan has to be in that conversation as well. 28, 5 and 5, 50% from the field. He should be mentioned here too, but I think he kind of fell out of the 4-5. I mean, it just keeps rotating and rotating, which makes this MVP race so fun to watch, just because there's so many guys that are having MVP level seasons. But honestly, even with all the guys I mentioned, like I said earlier, they're not gonna touch the top 3. But yeah, those are a lot of guys I discussed. Let me know down below who is your MVP so far this season. I just can't wait to see, because there's a whole camp. I think most people are divided between Jokic and Embiid. I want to see which guys of this spectrum you are. I'm Team Jokic. I want to see if there's anyone else who thinks the same way, or if I want to hear people from the Embiid side as well. Next topic I want to go to before we go into other news and notes, I want to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, because If you remember earlier on in the season when I had the Hoop Talk, when I was talking with the Hoop Talk, no, this is what it was. I was on the Hoop Talk podcast earlier on the season, and I was talking about how potentially if the Timberwolves don't take the next step this year, if they're still out of the play-in picture, they might have to look to trade Karl Anthony Towns. And I said that it would be very much of the Timberwolves to kind of F up this situation where you got Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and D'Angelo Russell finally all healthy together, and they would still squander this opportunity. It looked bad earlier on. They were out of the play-in picture. But as the season progressed, they are now 9 games over 500, and they are the 7th seed. And look, I had my doubts. I thought they were going to be a play-in team. I think they would be number 10 this year. But they have exceeded my expectations, and honestly, I'm very happy for this team. Last year was really tough for the Timberwolves, especially because Karl Anthony Towns had to go a lot because he did lose his mom to COVID and a lot of other family members as well. So I think it was just a tough year for him in general. I had a feeling he's going to have a bounce back year, and honestly, he's having a fantastic year so far. 24 points a game, 4 assists, almost 10 rebounds, 50, 40, 81 in terms of shooting splits. And he's honestly having an all NBA level season. Him being an all-star this year, he has been a huge part to why the Timberwolves has been so great. And what's crazy is that I talked about how Embiid, his team was 10th in offensive rating, 14th in defensive rating. The Timberwolves are actually near top 10 in both, which is something you cannot say for previous years of the team. Right now, they're 7th and 11th, respectively, offensive and defensive rating. And what I think the biggest change for them this year, and I think I've noticed this especially on their current 6-game winning streak, is that they're beating the teams they're supposed to beat. If you look at their 6 wins right now, like 6-game winning streak, not very impressive. The Cavs, good team, but again, they're missing a lot of guys, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Jared Allen did not play that game. Actually, no, I think he did. Jared Allen did play that game, but that was a good win. They beat the Warriors, but they were like struggling a lot. But in the last 4 wins, 2 to the Thunder, 2 to the Trailblazers, beating them by a combined, I think, like 192 points. I think that's what I saw on Twitter, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, back to the point. In previous years, when you look at this stretch of games, the Thunder, the Blazers, and the Thunder, if you look at last year's Timberwolves team, you'd be like, how are they going to have this up? They're probably going to split it when they really should have won all 4. And this year, they've won all 4, and all in convincing fashion. And that's really a huge change for me for the Timberwolves, is that they're looking at their opponents and they just step on their throats. When they know they're the better team, they know they have the offensive firepower, especially in those top 3 guys. They know that they're supposed to win, and they go out and deliver. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, I mentioned his stats, but Anthony Edwards having a great year, 21, 3, and 4. D'Angelo Russell averaging 19 points, 7 assists. And the defensive effort, honestly, comes through just a lot of the periphery guys. Those 3 are the offensive firepower, but when you got people like Jaden McDaniels, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, Torian Prince, Naz Reid, Jalen Noel, all these guys contributing to the defensive end, someone they're like people that they can like kind of like muck it up with on the other side. That's been extremely important to this team, and that's why they're getting a lot of wins and in convincing fashion. Because yes, they do struggle with the top teams. Yes, they might, especially in the first round, if they get out of the play-in tournament, they might even like be a first round exit. But just them being a playoff team is a huge plus, and them being the teams they're supposed to beat, having good records against them, is the reason why a lot of teams are playoff teams. I mean, you see how the Bulls are. They're like, out of the top 7 teams in the East, I think they're like 1-12. So, not in the East, but in the league. Like, the Bulls are 1-12 against the top 7 teams in the league. But they're beating up on the teams they're supposed to be. That's why they're so high up in the standings. And it's the same thing here for the Minnesota Timberwolves. You got to beat the bad teams to get a good record. And that's why they're honestly a playoff team right now. Honestly, with the way that they're playing, you'd be surprised that they're the 7th seed. But it's just the Dallas Mavericks, the Nuggets, and the Jazz have been so good this season. They're not really budging on their position. So right now, the Timberwolves are like 2 games behind of the Nuggets. I guess there's still a chance. But honestly, if I had to say, they'd be the 7th seed for sure. But yeah, 30-29 record. Chris Finch has had these guys playing an extremely high level. and I'm just happy for him. I'm happy for him. They basically only made the playoffs with Jimmy Butler. I think that was like the one time in like the last like 15, 17 years or something like that they made the playoffs. And this year they're probably gonna make it. I really do think so. They think they're even like a whole like other level above like the Clippers and the Lakers and the Pelicans and all that. The Timberwolves are a good team, and at this point I got to throw my hands up and say, you know what, Timberwolves, you're proving me wrong right now. I just want to see them in the playoffs. I just want to see how Cat and D'Lo play in the playoffs, because no matter who they face in the first round, it's gonna be hard to deal with that Timberwolves offense 100%. But yeah, honestly, they look for real for me. Let me know what you guys think down below about the Minnesota Timberwolves so far this season. Before we end today's episode, we're going to be going into other news and notes. Let's talk about the Ben Simmons return yesterday, where the Brooklyn Nets absolutely trashed the Philadelphia 76ers 129-100. The only good thing for the 76ers this game was that James Harden passed Reggie Miller for number 3 on the all-time scoring list. So now he is in the top 3 with Ray Allen only, I think, 400 threes ahead of him. And Steph Curry, of course, I think 600, 700 threes, but he's still going. Crazy for James Harden to be in that list. But, you know, he takes a lot of them. He hits a lot of them. That's great for him. But, yeah, just a tough game for the 76ers. The Brooklyn Nets absolutely dominated from quarter 1. And the 76ers just could not come back. Of course, there are a bunch of Ben Simmons chants going, you know, Ben Simmons sucks, all that good stuff, some profanity. Only one fan I think I heard was taking it too far. They had to remove him from the seat and actually have him escorted out of the arena. But besides that, it wasn't too bad. The broadcast didn't even mention him too much throughout the broadcast. I think they did hit the over. If you guys saw my pick challenge versus the Hoop Talk pod yesterday, we did prop bets on the Simmons stuff. I think only one of them actually came true, which was the seven times they said his name, which happened. But yeah, it was like a pretty big deal for the Nets to win this one, because they were able to shut down James Harden pretty big, scoring 11 points only in this game. Embiid struggled a bit, but he went to the free throw line a bunch. But everyone in that Brooklyn Nets team just provided great stuff. You got Steph Curry scoring 24, Durant 25, Irving 22, 16 from James Johnson off the bench, 11 from Bruce Brown. It's been a good trade for them, getting just a bit more depth. And I think this game just shows that even without Ben Simmons, even to the rest of the league, the Brooklyn Nets right now are 8th, but they're still a title contender. They're still a title contender, even though they look like they're number 8th in the East. They're still that good, and they should 100% be feared whoever faces them in the first round. Because honestly, if they get the 7th seed, because it's gonna be Raptors versus them probably in the play-in tournament, if they get the 7th seed, I'm sorry, Milwaukee, it's gonna be a great series, but I don't know who's gonna come out on top. I honestly don't know. That's gonna be absolutely fun to watch. But yeah, back to Ben Simmons in this one. He was on the bench. Of course, got heckled a lot. Really didn't there wasn't too much and stuff talked about him. I'm not even sure if the other stuff, I know he didn't touch Embiid or anything, which is kind of weird, but yeah, it would have been a lot better if Ben Simmons was on the court. But maybe if they face in the playoffs, which is honestly a huge possibility, maybe we could see some fireworks there. But he was on the bench, but at least he was out there doing shoot around and stuff like that. He was there. Ben Simmons was there, but there's going to be a lot more drama come playoff time. We're 100% sure of that. Moving on to the next bit of news. Season-ending injury surgeries for both Lou Dort and Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish had to have surgery on his separated shoulder, which will take him out 6 to 8 weeks, which takes him to the end of the regular season. He should be ready for summer workouts and stuff like that, so that is good. In terms of Lou Dort, he has been week to week for a while now, but sadly for him, he's going to be out for the remainder of the season due to injury with a torn labrum. I think he should be fine for next season, but Lou Dort has been in and out of the lineup this year. He hasn't played as many games as he has in years past, but hopefully the surgery does him well and he can be back for next year. I don't know if the Thunder is still going to be looking to come. It's going to be still tacky or not. We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully those two guys come back stronger in the next season. Next topic I want to discuss is Bradley Beal leading towards re-signing with the Wizards for a 5-year, $246 million deal. I think I mentioned it last week with the Zion Williams, with the I think it was like last week with the Anthony Davis contract situation where he just signed a 5-year deal before he turned 30, instead of waiting till 30, getting the supermax deal. That's what Bradley Beal did. And people were wondering, he has been in the Wizards for so long, and he's like, why hasn't he requested a trade and all that and all that stuff, you know? But this is the moment he's been waiting for, the big pay deal, and it looks like from both ends, from the way both sides are talking with the GM and Bradley Beal, it looks like they're basically going to do it in the offseason. He should be getting that super max extension. And for the same thing with Dame, I think he's going to get the same thing as well from the Trailblazers. I do want to say this. This is like before we move on to the final part. For both cases, like Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard, people are wondering, they should leave. They're wasting their opportunity. They need to be on championship contenders. They have to like ask for a trade out. And I know from a fan perspective that makes a lot of sense. Bradley Beal, if you put him on the I guess before the James Harden trade, put him on the 76ers, perfect fit there. You put him on like another team where they need like maybe a second or third guy, putting Bradley Beal there would honestly take them to the next level. Same thing with Damian Lillard. Put him on the Lakers where LeBron is. He's a much better fit than the rest of Westbrook. Put him on, I don't know, just any like a lot of these like other contenders. Maybe put him like, say for example with, I want to give like an example. I don't want to like just say like a random team. Like say put him on the Miami Heat. That would be massive for them. Put him on the like Brooklyn Nets. Okay, that's really random, but yeah, you get my point. Put him on a different team. They would make those teams title contenders, and they would actually be competing. But why do they stay? And I think Bradley Beal said this best. He wants to build he wants to be part of the community building out there in Washington. Sitting with Damian Lillard, they want to although like they play basketball, they do that for a living. They're still one of the best players in the league. They're still top players. There's other stuff in terms of family, in terms of like building communities, doing this other stuff outside of basketball that they want to do. And you just gotta respect them from it. You just gotta respect it. I mean, they have their whole lives for more than a decade for both these guys in the cities that they're in. They made friends. They've built a community. Like they helped build a community there in those respective cities. Maybe they just want to stay and just continue that. Maybe a championship is not the number one aspiration. That's completely fine. I think it's just a weird mentality to have because a lot of these guys, when things don't go their way, they would ask for a trade immediately. But there's very few of these guys in the league with a Bradley Beal, with a Damian Lillard. And yes, is it because of a massive contract extension ahead? Sure. But it really does feel like they want to like build something there. And if anything, if they want to win, they want to do it there more than anything else. And honestly, you just got to respect it. You got to respect it. I know some people are going to be like, if the championship is not like your number one priority, then what are you doing in the NBA? And I get that. I think they still 100% want to be like NBA champions. That is their goal. But doing it in their community, in this place where they've like stayed for 10 plus years, is something they would rather have for sure. So, do I think it's the best decision? In a pure basketball sense, I would want to see him on a different team. But if he wants to stay with the Wizards, go right ahead. At this point, I'm like, you know what? If this is like what they want to do, if he really wanted to leave, he would have left by now. But he looks like he really wants to stay. I'm all for it. I'm not gonna say like no or yes to it. It's their life. He's gonna sign a contract extension. He's gonna get the bread. But if he wants to build something there in Washington, what's us to stop it? Last but not least, Kyrie Irving has hired a new agent by the name of Chatella Riley Irving. And from all reports, she's the only current black female representing NBA players right now. I just want to say that it's great for Kyrie to have some more diversity in terms of player agents, and just him being able to give to just break down barriers and stuff like that. Kyrie Irving is all about that. Some people may disagree with the vaccination stuff that he's going by. That's a completely different conversation. But him hiring a new player agent who being one of the only black females currently representing players is super cool. Again, he's gonna be a max contract player anyway, so Let's see what's gonna happen there. Kyrie is all about trying to involve like all the community and stuff. He is a big advocate for that, so it was super cool to see that. I just wanted to bring that up because I just found that super, super cool. But yeah, those are all the news and notes. Let me know down below what you guys think. And I think this is what we're going to end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. And remember to follow @TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also TikTok for other awesome content. I'm going to be back next week to do another episode, which I'm going to be extremely excited about. Thank you guys for all the support. I still have a couple more weeks of school, but after school, I'm definitely going to have some more guests here, especially during the NBA playoffs. I think that's going to be definitely fun. I think it's going to be definitely exciting to discuss, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, it's going to be just like a great end to the season for the NBA. Let's see if we can keep the momentum going. And again, the MVP race is getting tough. I want to see like what you guys think down below. But yeah, thank you guys for all the support. Hope you have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. TV signing out. Peace.